Welcome to episode 9 of the C.A.R.E vlog. C.A.R.E stands for Career Advancement, Readiness, Enhancement vlog or video blog. We are your hosts, Nisar Ahmad and Eric B.Horn. Today's topic is coping with stress in your career or in your job. Quick introduction about myself. If this is the first time you're watching us, we'll briefly introduce ourselves, then we'll get into the actual topic itself. My name is Nisar Ahmad. I am the managing editor of the publishing platform careermetis.com, where myself and a group of contributors and authors from around the world share ideas, career advice for job seekers and freelancers. And I'm also the host of the Career Metis podcast. I'd like now my co-host Eric to do a quick introduction, then we'll jump into today's topic.
Hey guys, how's everyone doing? My name is Eric B.Horn and I'm the founder of B.Horn Incorporated, which is a career management and professional development firm for college graduates to mid-level professionals. And today's topic is one that I'm pretty sure that everyone can relate to, and that's stress, specifically how to cope with stress on your job. I know a lot of people, and I can't think of one person at some point in time that does not get stressed out based off of their job, especially what you specifically are doing. The last episode was based off of finding a career that's parallel to your passion. And one of the things that I wanted to make clear is just because you are working in your passion doesn't necessarily mean that stress doesn't come with it. And stress can be a killer. And I don't want to sound negative, but stress can cause so many health issues that, so many health issues that may be very, very clear, but it can be a lot of stuff that in the background, if you're stressed out, that can affect you also. Stress can also cause a mean ripple effect when it comes to your family. If you're stressed out at work and you bring home that stress, not only are you a victim of being stressed out, but then your wife or your children or whoever else is in your family, they become a part of that vibe, so to speak. So what we wanted to talk about today is some of the things that you can do to cope with that stress. Once again, we use the word cope with the stress, meaning, how you can still continue to move forward while you are stressed out. For me, I can start, when I was early in my career, it was second nature for me to be stressed out. And little did I know, and I can talk about one of the first things that you can do to cope with your stress. Being stressed out is a decision. You, regardless of what's going on at your particular job, whether good or 9 times out of 10, stress comes from something that's bad. It's your decision. You make that decision to say, okay, at this given moment, I'm going to be stressed out about this particular situation. And that is a hard lesson that I had to learn growing up, that I'm still learning, to be honest with you, that I'm still learning to this day. Regardless of what's going on, it is your decision to get stressed out from a situation. One of the first episodes we talked about was Navy SEALs, and I'm a big Navy SEALs fan, so to speak, if that even exists. And one of their main things is to work through the stress. They make a conscious decision, regardless of if it's fear or, in this case, stress, to continue to operate at a high level. And one of the ways that they do that is they reframe their mindset. It goes throughout all the training and all of the things that they endure. They know that their job is a high stress job. So case in point, going into the situation, they already know that this is a feeling that may happen. And based off of that, they tend to make the decision to turn that stress off and to continue to move forward. So one of the first ways that I can advise you guys to cope with stress is understand that you have the power to make the decision not to stress out. Is it easy to make this decision? No. Is it easy to shift your mindset? No, it's not. But I want to at least give you guys the understanding that you do have the power to make that decision to stress out or not, regardless of the situation that's going on. But Nassar, what tips do you have to help our audience cope with stress in the workplace?
So Eric, before I get into the actual tips on coping, I just wanted to qualify exactly what he said. And I'm glad you brought that up. We're not talking about avoiding stress. We're not talking about eliminating stress. We're talking about managing or coping with stress. So the underlying implication here is if you are growing in your career, if you're trying to experience growth or get promoted or even get a job, there is some type of stress involved, right?
Yes.
Stress is, and I want to borrow a line from Frank Underwood from House of Cards. In the very first episode, he says there are two types of pain: pain that moves you forward, and the other type of pain which keeps you where you are. And he said, I don't care about the second type of pain. So yeah, I know I went dark there. What I was trying to say is stress is good. Like I read a book. There's a book called The 12-Week Year, and they talk about this whole concept. I think the author's name is Brian Moran. And he talks about productive tension. That's the stress we're talking about. Like if in your career you will have that productive tension, that stress, and in many ways it is good. But if you're getting to a point where, as Eric said, where you're coming home frustrated, it could kill your productivity. It could kill your performance. If your career itself. So be wary of that. So I just want to reiterate that we're talking about coping with stress. So some of the ideas I can share. I can share a few things, Eric. One of the things I should share, no matter what you do, no matter what age, do some type of physical exercise, fitness. And that is very, very important. And I think now it is mainstream, where it is sort of the underlying thing where it's expected of you. Because if you go to your annual physical checkup, that's the first thing they're going to ask you. What is your lifestyle like? So it doesn't have to be crazy. We spoke about Navy SEALs. You don't have to join, and you don't have to join a boot camp like that. Simple, like walking every day. And those are the healthiest people. And if you really study a lot of senior level executives, they're all involved. Most of them are involved in some type of physical activity. It's not a fad. It's actually, you should look at taking care of your physical fitness, exercise more like eating. You eat every day. You don't have to work out exercise every day, but you have to do something. That's very important. The second thing I would say would be putting things in perspective. So what's stressful for me, Eric, may not be stressful for you. And or what's stressful for you may not be stressful for me. And we can talk about everywhere else as well. The reason I'm saying that is sometimes we blow things out of proportion because, right, we think something is really stressful, and if you self-reflect or even get a second opinion, it is not that bad. And sometimes but our body doesn't know that, our brain doesn't know that. It starts reacting. All of a sudden you feel, jittery, or you feel some pain. But sometimes it's the grand scheme of things. Let's say you're getting really stressed that you will not be able to deliver that report to your boss today. But let's say your boss has been giving you lots of other projects. I'm sure if it's a reasonable boss, he or she will understand if you ask for a 2-day extension, right? So that's just an analogy I'm giving you. So put things in perspective. Before you really get stressed out, find out if it is worth stressing out for.
Yeah.
The third thing I would say, and I think we covered about this in multiple other, we talked about mastermind, support group. I know the word support group makes you think like you need to have some type of addiction or some type of a negative thing happen in your life to get a support group. just having a group of individuals in your company, in your career, you're talking about each other's goals, talking about each other's progress, that also helps put things in perspective. And that actually, we are social beings, and I'm not a psychologist here. You can definitely look up that we feed off others' energy, others' ideas. So find a support group, chat with them, and that's another way to cope with stress, or just bouncing things off someone else. So those are the three things I would recommend. I use them every day. And yeah, Eric, I would love to hear your input on this idea, on this topic. Sorry.
The biggest thing that you talked about that I wrote down, yeah, don't sweat the small stuff. Um, you know, and be flexible. That kind of gives you a chance to cope with stress, because stress comes from unexpected things. If we knew everything that was going to be thrown at us or given to us or happens at work, we'll be better prepared, right? But like I said, the stress comes from you know not not saying not knowing what to do, but it can just be a buildup of so much that people become stressed out. And one of the things that I used to do at my job was I would get up and take a break. I would get away from my desk. A lot of times people, stress out a lot because while they're in the moment, they don't take a quick break or take the time out to remove themselves from the situation, even if it's you get up from your desk just to use the bathroom or get a drink of water, because those are things that you can do to step away from the stressful situation, even if it's for a quick second. Like specifically for me, I used to, like I said, I worked in the downtown Chicago area. I would go out, even if this is during the wintertime, I would, take a step outside, take a couple of deep breaths, and also think about things that are not stressful. Like, for example, I would think about if I'm in a stressful situation, I think about, how I would feel after I get out that situation. It's one of those, you begin with the end in mind. So if things are stressful, think about how things will be alleviated after the stressful moment is over with. Or also confine into someone that you trust at your job that you can vent. Everybody needs someone to vent to. And notice I said everyone needs someone to stress to. I'm not saying you need to be stressing out and talking about how stressed you out with everyone at your job. Sometimes people don't even go to their own boss. I didn't even go to my own boss. I went to another trusted individual and talked to them, and got the stressful situation off of my chest. And then also it provided another angle of advice. Once again, through these episodes, we've talked about getting help, being transparent. This is another avenue to do that, because sometimes it's good to pull somebody in the office and vent to them about the situation. Venting is one of the best things you can possibly do to cope with stress also, because a lot of times if you hold it in, it gets to the point where your stress level goes through the roof, and then now we're starting to talk about heart attacks, which I don't want anyone who's come to this video and need advice on how to cope with stress, get it out. And unfortunately, if you don't have anyone to talk to, get on the phone, call another trusted colleague, call your spouse, whatever the place may be, but step away for a minute and vent. That can be one of the things that can help you get you through that stressful situation. I mean, people always vent up, like from a chain of command perspective. You would never see a major vent to a private. You would always vent your frustrations up, because you would always want a better understanding of what you're going through. And then also, to Nassar's point, put it in perspective. That's the biggest thing, because what may be, like I said, what may be big to me and stressful to me it may be so simple to him to say, well, you know what, Eric, why don't you just do this, this, and this? Plain and simple. But once again, if I didn't, entrust in the C.A.R.E to say, hey, I'm stressed out. This is what I'm going through. What are your thoughts? I got to get it off my chest. And getting it off your chest and then getting some advice or some feedback in this type of situation can be another way to help you cope with the stress at work.
You spoke about venting, Eric, and I think like psychologists and psychiatrists, they make a living out of venting.
Yep.
All they do, actually, it's funny. They make a living and they charge an arm and a leg. I don't know how. I've never been there once, but I've heard that they charge hundreds of dollars an hour, and all they do is sit and listen. And sometimes people need an outlet. Yeah,
Yep.
but a word of caution though, don't make that your full-time thing. Like if you're
Right.
venting for 5 minutes, that's okay. But if you're venting all day, then you have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then nobody else wants to help you because you become a problem. Um, I think we spoke about um in the last episode, I believe we spoke about passion and purpose. And this is going back to perspective. Another way to put it in perspective is sometimes you got to take yourself out of the situation. Yes, we spoke about don't sweat the small stuff, but sometimes accept the fact that your job sometimes is stressful and what you're doing has an impact. And I go back to this story all the time. I once interviewed a nurse, and she works as a psychiatric nurse in one of my episodes. And I asked her this question: hey, isn't this hard? Like you're helping people with mental, psychological issues. And she says, it is really hard. I do accept some days it's very draining. I come home, but a few weeks later, I meet that person, or even a year later, they come and randomly give me a hug and thank me. And sometimes I forget who they are,
Mm-hmm.
but they tell me, hey, you helped me through a tough situation. So whenever I feel stressful, I think about moments like that. And not everybody is a nurse, not everybody is a Navy SEAL, not everybody is a cop, but I'm sure your job, no matter what it is, even if you're working in customer service and you're helping a customer with a big problem, you've never met them, you're making a difference in their day. So if you put things in perspective, that is another way to put things into perspective. That could reduce some of the stress, because all stress, I shouldn't say all stress, most of the stress comes because we think about ourselves.
Mm.
The moment we shift gears towards others, and a little bit of that stress goes away. So that's one more thing I wanted to add to what he just said, Eric.
I need to write that one down. Stress comes from thinking about ourselves. That was okay.
Yeah,
I totally agree.
exactly. So I another thing, because as you were writing that down, I just wanted to add one more point, right? Like for example, another reason stress happens is we always um, think about what's happening in the future. We are anticipating there'll be some type of pain, right? Like let's talk about interviews, right? We talk about job interviews and all that thing here. Let's say I have a very important interview this week, and for no reason I'll be stressing myself out. But if I change my perspective and I said, let me do this, I want this interview, this is very important, I'm going to do my best to prepare. I'll give it my best shot. Whatever happens, happens. I'm not going to get stressed out, but I will not ruin my week thinking about that interview,
Right.
because I know going into it, either it's A or B. It's either I'll get the job or I won't get the job, right? And I should be in a position where I'm okay with both the outcomes, and I do my best. I've done the preparation. I've done everything. So that is another area where I see people get stressed out a lot. It's always something in the future, the big meeting, the big presentation, the
Right.
big promotion. And sometimes we get too attached to the outcome, and that stresses you out. So detach yourself completely from the outcome. I know it's like a Zen thing. It's hard to do. Trust me. It's very hard to do for me, but that should help with reducing or coping with your stress.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And as a takeaway for you guys, in the comments below, please let us know other techniques that you do to help cope with stress at your job. Unfortunately, stress is universal. It covers all areas, all genders, all races, all barriers, because at some given point, with us being human, we've stressed out in some way, shape, or form. So, you know, Nasara and I, we don't know everything when it comes to how to cope with stress. We can only go off of what we've learned and what we've done. But at the same time, even though we're in the process of teaching you guys, we're students also. So we would definitely want to know what are other ways that what you do to cope with stress at your job. Definitely comment below this video, and we will definitely love to hear what you have to say. And as a segue on speaking about coping with stress, the next episode we're gonna talk about an activity that can stress some people out, even though there's some certain things that you can do to help alleviate that stress, and that's how to get a raise, or specifically how to ask your boss for a raise. A lot of times people are nervous because they're afraid of the word no, and it gets to the point where they stress themselves out to the point where they don't even ask. However, closed mouths don't get fed. So if you, and we'll talk about this in the next episode, if you do some certain steps, it will help better position you to ask for a raise. Now, asking and getting a raise are two totally different things. But if you position yourself the way we tell you to position yourselves in the next episode, you'll be in a much better position to ask for a raise. So on that note, once again, guys, on behalf of Nassar and myself, thank you guys for checking out this episode, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys later.